Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about the VISEART Spritz Edit Palette. I'm going to be showing you some swatches, talking about the palette, my thoughts on it, giving you a demo of this eye look. And we'll also be doing some comparison swatches to the VISEART Warm Edit Palette and also to the little Petit Pro Apricoteen Palette. We'll be doing some comparisons to those two, and that's it. Let's go ahead and just jump right into it. So this palette is the latest palette to VISEART's edit line. So this is the 5th one in their edit line. And these are the palettes that have the smaller pans, and there's 12 shades in here. So the outer box packaging looks like all the others, and it has the shade names on the back. And then here is a look at the outside packaging. And I love that these are color-coded, and this Spritz palette is the first time they're actually printing some fun graphic on here, and I just love the bubblies. And I don't drink anymore, but I used to love an Aperol Spritz in the summertime, and I believe this palette was kind of inspired by the Aperol Spritz, and it's probably why I love it so much. Let's take a look at the shades inside. So if you're not familiar with these edit palettes, they pretty much all look like this. They have this tab closure. It's a magnetic open and close. And then they kind of flip open so that there's a mirror, and then the shades in here. Oh, there's plastic. Okay, guys, let's do this together. That was not smooth, but satisfying nonetheless. So mirror on the inside, and then here are the 12 shades. So there are 5 mattes and then 7 shimmers in there. So let's go ahead and look at the swatches of this palette. So I went across the top row from left to right and then from top to bottom. So first we have Ciambella, and then we have Prosecco, Tarocco, Brioche, Limoncello, Spritz, Fizz, Arancia, Balmy, Scala, Granita, and Figura. And pardon my horrible Italian accent. So if you're unfamiliar with these edit palettes, the layout is pretty much always like this. We have 12 shades, 4 across, 3 down. All of these little pans are magnetized. You can pop them out, and if you have any of the other edit palettes or any of the other Petit Pro palettes, you can kind of mix and match and play around and kind of create like your dream palette for the moment. So that is very appealing. And these are just such the perfect size. I love this size. So just to hold it up next to, this is actually good. This is the Victoria Beckham Smoky Eye Brick. This is like business card size and pretty much the same size as the VISEART Petit Pro palettes. So this is like just a little bit taller than that and pretty much the same width. It's a little bit wider than the Smoky Eye Brick. Great handy size. And even though this outer packaging is just cardboard, I find it very sturdy. It's just very solid. It's not like it bends or anything. Like it's just really solid, really well made. And I love that there's a mix of mattes and shimmers. As you guys know, VISEART is like a professional makeup line, and their larger 12 and palettes are meant for professionals. So they don't mix the mattes and the shimmers. They keep the mattes separate, they keep the shimmers separate. And so when you buy one of those 12 pan palettes, you're sort of committed to a particular finish, where these are a little bit more consumer focused. And so they've mixed and matched the finishes in here. And it's just so great. Like if you've never ever tried a VISEART palette and you're curious, the edit palettes or the Petit Pro palettes, those I think are the way to go. The quality is the same. I don't feel like the quality suffers because this is smaller, and for consumers, not at all. It's the exact same quality. The mattes in here perform just like the mattes in all of their professional larger palettes, and just wonderful. VISEART makes some of my favorite eyeshadow formulas. I just think they're so easy to use, and I feel like they're perfect for beginners and they're perfect for like pros. They're just really wonderful. So this palette is no different. It performs beautifully, the quality is there, and I use these 2 shades predominantly on my lid. So the Arancia color and the Spritz color, I pretty much have that all over my lid. And they just, you know, for 2 shades that are very different, they just like blended together perfectly. And then I used these 2 shadows to create a transition, and it just works beautifully. I feel like no matter what colors you want to combine, how you want to wear them, like they always all work really well together. And I think that is one of the beautiful things about VISEART shadows. They just blend and meld together so seamlessly, and it makes them so easy to work with. So anyway, let's jump into some comparison swatches, because I know some of you were curious about the Warm Edit palette and also about the Apricoteen. So here we have the Warm Edit palette next to the Spritz palette. They definitely have some similarities there, but when I look at the palettes, you know, they're different. You know, the Spritz palette has a lot more peach, where the Warm Edit palette has, you know, that yellow in there, and then it has like some more burnt colors. It really is just overall a little bit deeper and warmer, as the name would suggest. But there were some shades in here that I thought maybe could be a little bit similar. So what I've done is I've swatched the Warm Edit shades that I thought were similar, just right on top of the Spritz Edit swatches. So first I compared the Apricot Nude in the Warm palette to the Ciambella color in the Spritz palette. And then I compared the Nude Caramel color in the Warm Edit palette to the Brioche color in the Spritz palette. And I do feel like the Nude Caramel color in the Warm Edit palette is warmer than the Brioche color. Next, I swatched the Burnt Gold in the Warm Edit palette to the Limoncello color in the Spritz Edit palette. And these two are actually very similar. And then finally, I swatched the Moonstone shade from the Warm Edit palette over the Fizz shade in the Spritz Edit palette. And the Moonstone shade is much lighter. It's much brighter, more silvery than this Fizz shade. So those are the only 4 shades that I found similar in the 2 palettes. And then next I did the same thing with the Apricoteen palette. So here are the 2 palettes next to one another, just so you can get like an overview of the 2. I do feel like if the Warm Edit palette and the Apricoteen palette had a baby, they would kind of create this Spritz palette. But again, it was like, in my mind's eye, the Apricoteen palette seemed a lot more similar to me than the Spritz Edit palette. When I saw pictures of the Spritz palette first, I thought of Apricoteen. I didn't actually think of the Warm Edit palette. Many of you actually requested swatches against the Warm Edit palette, but I thought of the Apricoteen probably because of the peaches. So I did the same thing as I did with the Warm Edit palette with the Apricoteen palette. So I just swatched any of the shades that I thought were similar, just right above the Spritz Edit swatches. So first I swatched the Meringue color from the Apricoteen palette over the Ciambella color in the Spritz palette. Next I swatched the Grenadine color from the Apricoteen palette above the Spritz color in the Spritz palette. And here you can see the Grenadine color is much brighter and lighter than this Spritz color. Next I swatched the Sugared shade from the Apricoteen palette over the Fizz shade in the Spritz palette. And this Fizz shade has like a little bit of a warmer kind of peachy undertone to it. And then finally, I compared this Bourbon shade from the Apricoteen palette to the Scala color in the Spritz palette. All right, so those are all of my thoughts and swatches and comparison swatches. Let's just go ahead and jump into the demo. All right, so I'm gonna start by jumping right into the Arancia color, and I am using my Rephr 02 brush, and I'm gonna work this on the inner corner of my eye and bring it out towards the center of my lid. Wow, that's gorgeous. Next, I'm going to grab my Esom S33 brush and go into the Spritz shade. And I'm just going to focus this on my outer corner and blend it in over the Arancia color. I'm going to use my Sonia G Classic crease brush, and I'm going to go between these 2 matte shades. This one is Tarocco and this one is Brioche. And I want something kind of in between. I want to use it as like a transition shade. And really I'm going into this Tarocco shade and just bringing in a little of the Brioche just to deepen it up a little bit. And then I'm just going to drag this over the top there just to kind of help transition into my lid here. I think that helps kind of, just kind of soften everything up and make it look a little less graphic than this side. Wow, these shades are like butter and they just work so well together. Next, I'm gonna grab my Esom T05 brush. I'm gonna go into this shade Scala and line my eyes with this. All right, and I'm just gonna add just a little bit of dimension to the outer corner of my eyes. I really like this kind of like soft ombre sunset look I got, but I do want to try one more shade in here, and I'm going to use my Esom W36 brush, and I'm going to go into Figura, I think is how you pronounce it. And I'm just placing this at an angle and flicking. See that difference between those two eyes? Love it. All right, so that's it for my eye look. I'm just going to add some mascara, and I will be right back. So mascara is on. I just threw on some of my Tower 28 lip gloss in Fire, and I thought that would be fun, but you know what I think would be more fun is the new Wayne Goss lip gloss in Antique Rose. I just thought, oh, that would be so pretty. So I'm just gonna throw this right on top. Lip gloss on lip gloss, why not? All right, there is my final look. Of course, I love this palette. I love VISEART shadows. You guys know that. This palette is absolutely no different. The performance is wonderful. I love this color story and how the shades all work together. They're just mistake proof. They really, really are mistake proof, foolproof. You could go from the lightest shade to the darkest shade in there and just blend the two together, and you'd make like the perfect transition. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in my next video.